Good afternoon, you beautiful souls. It's that time of day again. Today's walk, it's been raining a little bit, on and off shower, so I thought I'd put my rain jacket on today. But something I want to talk to you about today is, kind of living outside of the system. Is it easy, and is it worth it? There's something that I talk about quite a lot on my walks, and when I'm kind of getting things off my chest, and I share a few things about our life and our lifestyle, and you know, one thing we get asked quite a lot actually is it easy and is it worth it? Um, it's not necessarily easy to begin with. Choosing to live outside of the system, to walk away from convention, routines, to question everything that kind of we've ever been taught, I would say, um, everything that we've been taught to accept, Dylan's schooling, the job, the house, all of these kind, just going to go this way, all of these kind of things, um, is it easy to kind of walk away from that? And I think the answer is it's as easy as you make it. Now, conventionally, we've got all these things in our head and we think, we can't really do that, or I can't really do this. And, you have to kind of go through things one at a time. There's this big thing about, taking your children out of school, although it's becoming more and more popular and more people are actually doing it. There's still a lot of people out there that question those that do take their children out of education. They question them, well, why are you doing it? Do you think you're a teacher? Do you think you're better than a teacher? There is a lot of kickback that you may get if you do that, from family, from friends. But ultimately, it's your decision. You're taking not only your children, but yourself you're out of your comfort zone, out of your security, out of approval of others, So although it's a bit of a two-pronged thing, really, is it easy? It is quite easy to do, but kind of going through the stages of the kickbacks, of the people going, oh, you shouldn't really do that, or you shouldn't really do that, or whatever the kickbacks or the throwbacks might be. That's the hardest part, is navigating through those and proving to people that you are doing the right thing. And I think that's the hardest part. We've had our doubts, don't get me wrong. Excuse me. When we first did it, we were sat at home before we actually started on the house sitting kind of journey. We sat at home and we knew we wanted to take Dylan out of school, and we knew we was doing the right thing and we was doing it for a good reason. But then when Dylan was out of school, he's around you 24 hours a day. And for those that aren't used to that, it can be really tough. It can be incredibly tough and demanding. Now, Sam has actually said to me today, she's seen a few posts in a few of the home educational groups that, people are pulling their children out of school, but still putting them into the box and still putting them into a school environment, even though it's at home. Now, I think the reason why children aren't getting on at school is because they're not built that way. They're built to, like Dylan, for example, he's an outdoors learner. He loves hands-on. He loves experience. And a lot of kids thrive like that. Yes, there are children that thrive in a textbook learning, head in your books, classroom environment. But, there are different ways, and everybody does learn differently. I think there's 4 different ways. I can't remember what they are now. But I'm a hands-on, practical learner, audio-visual rather than reading and writing. There are various different ways. And I think, once you kind of get around that and understand how your child wants to be taught. You know, we are child-led, free learners. So, you know, don't have a structure. We don't follow the curriculum. Dylan learns about what he wants to learn about, and we go exploring. And while we're on our adventures, we might learn the history of a castle, say Hastings Castle, Dover Castle. We learned the history of York when we was in York. You know, there's lots of there's an old settlement in Lincolnshire that we visited. You know, there's lots of these different things. Although people might say, well, he's not learning anything. Actually, he's learning a great deal, but he's there. He's experiencing it, like, you know, first, you know, at face value, you know, rather than just looking at something in a textbook. You know, so there are times we wondered if we'd made mistakes. You know, is he going to learn okay like this? Is he not? You know, that they're being around you 24/7 and constant. And some people may fight with their child to get them to do anything. You know, at first that's common. That is common. But you have to go through a process what's called unlearning. So you have to unlearn all these rules that you've been taught. Have to unlearn all of these kind of stipulations that you've been made to believe that you need to do. Sit down, listen, do your work for 8 hours a day, put your hand up to go for a toilet break. You have to learn quite a lot of stuff to find out where you are and where you want to go on your journey. You know, times when the simplicity that we craved for was, you know, it was a struggle. But now coming through the other side, you know, this is what we've learned. You know, the difficulty, as I just said, is the unlearning. Now, that's the difficult part. It's the kickback from friends and family and the unlearning. Some people might not understand that they need to unlearn everything they've been taught to start again from scratch. But that's exactly what you have to do. But I'll tell you what, it is so worth it. It is absolutely 100% worth it, because you know, every challenge has led to us, and you know, it's led us back to ourselves. You know, everything that's true, forget about all the lies and the deception, and you know, the certain things in history that have actually been covered up, and you know, we've found out the truth of certain things. You know, every step away from the system has brought us also closer to earth, you know, to each other and to freedom. You know, obviously freedom was our main goal. So, you know, the further we went through the journey, and I'm not just talking about Dylan's education, I'm talking about, you know, the further we go, pulling away from the systems, you know, not having with the government and those systems having a hold and the control over us. That is the I'm just going to walk this way, actually. That is what you're walking away from, essentially, you know, to gather your own freedom, to figure out who you are. You know, there's no roadmap to this. You know, when you leave the default path, I say the default path, you know, the path that's walked by, you know, the many millions of people on this planet. Once you kind of deviate from that default path, there isn't any rule book. You know, there's no blueprint, there's no boss, there's no fixed salary. You create on the go. You know, you just make it up, and you kind of almost wing it as you go. You know, and that's actually a good thing, because you tend to find things that you never knew you was interested in, or find things out that you never knew you know. You know, and there's lots of different things, and I think, but that's where the magic lives. It's in the rawness. It's in the rebuilding of your lives, rebuilding of yourselves, rebuilding of your family unit. It's waking up and realizing that this day, this life, it's yours. It's nobody else's. It's your life. You know, you're not owned by a corporation. You're not boxed in by schedules or, you know, emails. You're not kind of dependent on pensions or the promise that one day, just maybe one day, when you're at a certain age that the government tells you you're at the right age, you may be able to live a little bit of your life. away from, you know, the hustle and the bustle and the work and, you know, the this and the that. Because the government is telling you when you're ready to do that. Not you. You're not the person that's telling you you're ready to do that. The government is. So, you know, once you come away from that, you know, to get you away from those so you can actually truly live the life that you want to live. People want different things in life, don't they? They want to live differently. If everybody lived the same life doing the same thing, it'd be pretty boring. But you know, the different variety in life and the different variety of how people live, and you know, this is everybody's choice. At the end of the day, we choose to live nomadically, and we choose to house and pets it. There are van lifers out there that choose to live nomadically in a van. There are nomads out there that just travel and backpack around the world. Everybody's got their own definition of what their ideal life is or what their happiness is. Because a lot of people are happy in work, in the system, doing what they want to do. But again, that is their choice. And life is a choice. It's a game. You have to decide. You decide the rules, essentially. You decide the rules. So it's, you know, when you get to that point of figuring out that you make the rules, it's your choice what you want to do with your own life. Once you kind of come around and understand that and know that that's what you want to do, or you know, whatever it may be, you can start living that life and start figuring out that you are actually free. And you know that no one can tell you that you can do that, obviously, because they don't want you to know that you can do that. You know, but you can. It's down to you to tell yourself that you can do that, and that's what you want to do. You know, we're living now, you know, even when it's hard, even when no one else gets it, you know, what are you doing? You know, you've got no house. You know, you've thrown pretty much all your stuff away. You know, you've taken Dylan out of school. But that's our choice. You know, that's our choice. You know, not a lot of people get it. My family don't get it. They don't get it. And this is what I mean about the kickbacks and the pushbacks, mainly from family and friends, because they don't really understand the change we've had in our head and why we want to live this way. But the raw is we're free. We're free to choose to live this way. You know, even when it feels like the world is moving in one way and we're walking in a completely opposite direction. But that's our choice. We've got the choice to live this way. We've got the choice to go back and follow everybody else and go back into a 9-to-5 job and be structured and routine and told what to do day in and day out until pretty much the day we die. But we don't want to do that. We choose not to do that. You know? So if you're out there and you too are navigating or maybe thinking about navigating the edges of making your own fire, of growing in your own rhythm, we do see you. We see there are lots and lots of people now thinking this is a better life than the one I'm currently living. And it may be. And it may just be. But you're only going to find out if you put that, as I said the other day in one of my videos, you are only going to find out if you put that first step on the path and start walking. And I want you to hear this as well, because you're not behind on this either. You know, that we're coming into a new golden age. This new world that we're walking into is going to be absolutely magnificent. You know, and there are more and more families living on this path now of freedom, of harmony, of truth, of love. You know, you're not late to the party. You're not broken if you think that this is a better life than the one that you're living now. You're just becoming who you was always meant to be. It was always meant to be free. We were always meant to be free. Humanity was always meant to be free, not locked up in a box and told what to do. And, you know, everything else that's gone with it that we've had to endure for millennia. You know, it's not supposed to be easy, but that's how you know it's real. isn't it? That's how you know it's real. If life was easy and things were easy, everyone would do it. But, you know, there are only a select few of us that are actually doing it. And that is the difference. That's the difference. You know, everybody says, well, if life was easy, everyone would do it, wouldn't they? If making money that was that easy, everyone would be rich. If living a life like this was that easy, then everybody would live a life like this. But you know, one thing I can certainly say for sure is that, you know, life is easier once you come through to that, the understanding. And there's another one of these camps here, look. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of them in these woods. They're everywhere. Anyway, back to the conversation. Life is easier once you get over all the hurdles and you come away and you actually start living the life. You find, wow, you can sit back and you can go, wow, I'm free. You know, like this life outside the system, it might demand more from you in the beginning, but it also gives you more. It gives you more presence. It gives you more truth, more space to become who you actually are as individuals and us as a collective, as a humanity. And that, my friends, that is worth everything. So thank you again for walking with me today. As always, love and light to you all. Remember to take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, we are the quiet ones who remembered. We're building a new world of oneness, of harmony, and of peace. So remember to take care of each other and yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.